All right, so President Donald Trump addressing the nation following the security scare at the White House Correspondents Dinner, giving a larger message that justice will be served. He said that he heard a noise from a distance. He recognized it as a gunfire, after which he was taken off the stage within seconds. The president also confirmed that an officer was also shot at during the incident, even as the law enforcement agencies, they acted very quickly. He lauded the enforcement agencies there. He also elaborated more on the suspect, the shooter in this case. He described the person there as a would-be assassin and said that he was fully armed and was pinned to the ground and taken into custody. He also said that shooter was probably acting alone. Even as the agencies continue with the investigation, the probe has started in this entire incident. He also indicated that he may have been the intended target, saying that, "I guess I was the target. These people are crazy. You never know." He called the shooter a lone wolf, sick, crazy, and also whack. Let me go across to Dr. Joseph Chalil, a geopolitical expert. Thanks so much, sir, for connecting with us. How do you look at this entire situation? Because Donald Trump has elaborated on what really happened at that event, also who the shooter could be, not sure what the motive is. But this is not the first time that such an incident has happened in the history of the United States. He also elaborated on what really happened 2 years back in Pennsylvania as well. Your take on this?
Good evening, and it's a great day for America because President Trump is safe, and he has shown courage after coming back, even after an assassination attempt, third time on his life. Again, we had in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then in Palm Beach, where I'm right now based out of, and this happened in a hotel, the Washington D.C. Hilton, which is a 10-minute walk from White House. I have stayed there multiple times. And this is the same hotel where President Reagan was shot 40 years ago in the 1981 by a person named Mr. Hinckley. So, you know, there's a nickname for this hotel called Hinckley Hilton as well. So it's unfortunate that the event happened, that someone's able to breach the security perimeter. Again, they weren't able to get into the ballroom, but at least into the vicinity of the ballroom and shoot at a police officer. So what you can clearly see, the courage of the president, even minutes after an assassination attempt, he came back and he was openly taking questions and no restrictions. Everybody was asking, multiple questions, and he was making jokes about it. So this is a man who wants to change the country, and he's doing it for the country. And at this point, we are all thankful that everybody is safe and no one's hurt.
Absolutely. And US President Donald Trump also spoke about the shooter as well. He called him sick, whack, and crazy, saying that he could be lone wolf. But what that really tells you about the motive, the timing as well, because this is happening in the backdrop of the Iran war. Though Donald Trump has ruled out the possibility, any link with the Iran war, what do you think the motive could be?
Again, if people who realize what President Trump is doing, the fundamental changes he is currently changing in the U.S. Government, with thousands, if not, most presidents do maybe, 10 or 60 or 70 executive orders. He has done hundreds of it already. So I would say when we go back and look at this 5 years, 10 years from now, we will see, whether you like him or not, President Trump will be the most consequential president in the U.S. history, one of the most consequential president. So that also creates uncertainty among, even before he became president, in Butler, Pennsylvania, they tried to assassinate him, and he was, barely escaped. He was shot in the ear, and he was even after getting shot, he was getting up and saying, "Fight, fight, fight." So the guy, we need to give him credit for what, his guts, his gift. He thanked God for saving his life, and he believed he has a purpose in this life to make changes in this world.
Absolutely, because you spoke about the Pennsylvania incident. On July 13, 2024, 2 years back, he was shot at in his ear. He was saved, but that also happened 2 years ago. That was before the presidential election. I'll come back to you, Dr. Joseph, once again. Let me get in a word from my colleague Mayank, who's been tracking all the details. Mayank, the president elaborated on the shooter in this case, what really happened there at the incident. He also spoke about the Pennsylvania incident as well, delinking this to the Iran war. Take us through the key highlights as far as the address to the nation of the president is concerned.
See, there are certain details which the president brought out while he was addressing the people there, or the press conference there. He said specifically that it was the fire took place all about 50 meters away from him. That was the point number one. The point number two, he said the person who was firing was a sick person. The third point which he brought out, and he quoted an example of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of US, who was shot at and he was killed, the first person to be as a president who was killed in US. He brought out his example and he said that people who do something, or the people who act, people go after them. So that was the point he was bringing out, that since he's taking actions or he's bringing in policies or making changes to the US, that's why some people are there who are not agreeing to it and they are after them. That's the third point he brought out, actually. And then when he was talking about the person in point, he said that the person was sick and he should be, he can commit such actions in future also once he comes out of jail or not. That's the point he made out. So there are 4-5 points specifically, and when he was asked about
so that shooter has been taken into custody. Mayank, stay on with us. I'll come back to you once again. Let me take our viewers through what really happened there at that particular venue, a very high security area. And this right here, what you can see on the screen, are the CCTV visuals that have come out and that have been put out by Donald Trump, in which you can clearly see this particular area is the screening area just outside the venue where the shooter was. He was pinned to the ground. See, as soon as they see something happening, in fact, we're learning that he shot at one of the enforcement agents there, but he was wearing the vest, so he was safe. And as you can see right here, that is where the video cuts. He is pinned to the ground. He has been taken into custody. What we know about the shooter so far is that he is from California in the United States. He is, in fact, Donald Trump has called him evil, crazy, and sick, saying that there's a possibility that he is lone. The visuals on your screen. Let me take you through what has happened in the last 2 hours. As you can see, this is where the incident event was actually happening. On the stage, as you can see, Donald Trump along with First Lady, cabinet ministers as well. And there is chaos in that room when they hear the shots. These are the journalists sitting there, in fact, in audience, and they were asked by the enforcement agencies to duck down to save their lives. And after this, as you can see here on the screen, this is the stage where Donald Trump, along with the First Lady, the cabinet ministers, the Vice President, in fact, on this side, J.D. Vance, he was also sitting on the stage, and they were quickly taken out of this area to a secured area as soon as this incident happened. And right here, this is the person in question, the shooter, who has been now taken into custody. He belongs to California. Donald Trump has called him a sick, evil, a crazy man, that he probably was a lone wolf. What the motive was is something that remains to be seen, but Donald Trump has made it quite clear that it has no relation whatsoever with the Iran war. Let me once again go back to Dr. Joseph on this. Dr. Joseph, as you mentioned, that not the first time that this incident has happened in the history of the United States, but let's go back to what really happened 2 years back in 2024 in Pennsylvania, when Donald Trump came under attack for the first time. That time, just before the presidential election, he garnered a lot of sympathy, and he went on to win the elections and as well and become the president of the United States. So this time around, 2 years later, do you think he will once again gain sympathy? Because this is also happening just ahead of the midterm elections there in November. Or do you think this will...
midterm elections, because it's too far away. We have so much conflict going on, especially with the war in Iran. First time in the history, after several years, we have 3 battleship groups are assembling near Straits of Hormuz for Iran. So we would have some sort of, again, I've been a vocal supporter of the strategy of the blockade, which I believe it's working, and the Kharg Island oil tanks are full of crude. So that's thinking, the Iran war is most likely not connected to this. Again, I don't know, but again, any attempt on the American president will unify the American people. There will be sympathy, but again, how it would impact a midterm election may not, we don't know for sure. But the best thing is we can clearly show this president have shown courage over and over again at the time of, at the time of scares and when people are trying to kill him. It takes a lot of guts to come back to White House, to the correspondents meeting, to the press room, and to ask any question, answer any questions they have without, showing no fear, no remorse, because I don't think we clearly know, is it really a lone wolf? Is it a coordinated attack? But, showing courage, I think it goes a long way. It clearly shows to American people, President Trump mean business, and he is here not for himself. He clearly said he was comparing a life of a president to the life of a race car driver, to the life of a bull rider, saying that it is a lot unsafe to be a president. 5.8% of presidents get shot or get killed, as opposed to, a very minute fraction of all these race car drivers. Right. So this president, you have to give it to him. He has guts.
Absolutely. And US President Donald Trump calling this a traumatic experience and also lauding the response time as well. At this point in time, have a look at the visuals on your screen. The shooter has been taken into custody. Donald Trump, the First Lady, the Cabinet Minister, journalists who were there at the White House Correspondents event, they all are safe and they have all shifted to a secured area. We have many reactions coming in as well. Have a look.
Law enforcement has requested that we leave the premises consistent with protocol. And he wanted to emphasize that nobody was hurt. He and the First Lady, the cabinet, everybody's safe. The president will be having a press briefing at the White House in 30 minutes. That is not a joke. And he insists that we will reschedule this event in the next 30 days. And that he has to follow security protocol.
The dinner had just started. President and First Lady had just been brought into the room. A few minutes later, people were just in their first course. And there was some sort of loud commotion. Secret Service came running up. They immediately pulled the President and First Lady and Carolyn Leavitt, who were on the dais. They pulled them to safety. And then everybody was laying on the ground. We were all the journalists, all the guests, all the dignitaries were on the ground. Slowly, Secret Service appeared to be clearing the room, looking. It's unclear exactly what happened.
All right, have a look at the visuals on your screen. The CCTV footage that is now emerged that clearly goes on to show how the attacker, in this case, the shooter, was pinned to the ground and he was taken into custody. And that happened in the screening area that was just outside the venue where this high-profile, highly secured event was taking place. Coming back to you, Mayank, on this, the suspect has been described by the President of the United States as a would-be assassin, and he has now been taken into custody. What more are we learning about this? And could you also elaborate more on the CCTV visuals, the fresh visuals that have now come to the fore?
Yeah, the way the pistol in this case, or pistol or maybe revolver, because it is thought to be a smaller bore weapon. So he's described that the firer or the person using the gun, rifle or pistol in this case, was 50 meters away from the person, and maybe he was aimed at on that. And he said that the person once come out might repeat the same incident, or this is how he has described when he said that his task is difficult, because any person who takes action, and he quoted the example of Abraham Lincoln in this case, any person who takes actions, people are against them. This is what he was quoting about that person. Then whatever the profile of the person has come out, this California person, he's said to be 31 years old. He's under custody. Investigations have already been launched, as the administrative officials had been saying. Administration officials were saying that. So the past and present will be looked into, his antecedents and the people in touch. But then one point he brought out, the president brought out, is actually perhaps he was working like a lone wolf. That means the entire actions he had planned on his own, and he was trying to execute that single-handedly. This is what he brought out. But then for further details, let's wait, because as far as whether it's a political action or he was motivated because of his grievances against him because of the political reasons or not, that will come out further. For that, we'll have to wait.
All right, so the investigation has been initiated. Donald Trump has called this a traumatic experience, saying and calling the shooter in this case sick, crazy, and a wag, saying that he could be a lone wolf in this case. Have a look at what he said.
The man has been captured. They're going to his apartment. I guess he lives in California, and he's a sick person, a very sick person. And we don't want things like this to happen. I think it's very important that I say, though, and I told the representatives of the evening, they did such a beautiful job. It was such a beautiful evening. And again, they're talking about free speech in our Constitution. That's what it's all about, not just...
Do you know yet which weapon he was shot? Obviously, we're only a couple hours into this incident, so we don't have that level of information. The FBI's evidence response team is here. They're processing the scene. So as the investigation develops, all that information we need to figure out what the ballistics. The ATF is also on scene here with us.
So the suspect did or did not fire a shot?
Sure. So again, it's very preliminary information. We do believe he did. However, as the investigation determines, the shell casings will be able to get more information as we review more evidence. We're very early in the investigation.
Right, we can take a couple more right here and right here and one more over here.
Thank you so much. So the president said that he wants there to be another event within 30 days. Given what happened tonight, do you have any sense of what additional security measures might be put in place to ensure that something similar does not happen again?
Sure. I'll talk to the Secret Service.
Yep, this is what we plan for every day. So we take each and every case and we evaluate it, and we do site assessments. And that's why we go out and build these sites for what the event is, and that's how we go about our business.
So will there be any changes or added measures given that this did happen?
We're going to have to evaluate this evening.
Thank you.
I understand. I understand
how the suspect got into the hotel. Was it a guest here? Are you searching rooms here?
So preliminary information, we do believe he was a guest here at the hotel. We have secured a room here in the hotel. And again, we'll go through the appropriate procedures to determine what was inside there. But that is secure. At this point, like I said, we believe he is the only suspect in this case.
Okay. To jump on that question, I understand the multi-approach to security, but to walk in with a weapon of that caliber and get all the way to the ballroom, which is on the lower level, seems to be quite an extraordinary feat. How does that happen?
Sure. So again, I mean, we're very early in the investigation, so we'll have to determine, we'll go through video across the hotel to figure out how the gun got in, how it got down here. Those things will come through the investigation. At this point, we don't have that level of detail.
Okay, last one.
Yes, video appears to show the president falling down and is being escorted out. Was there fear at all during his evacuation?
No, we don't have any information that he was injured.
Could you clarify how he was detained? If he was not shot, could you clarify how he was detained?
Sure. So law enforcement right here in this very area, they actually tackled him to the ground and handcuffed him.
Can you release his name? In the hospital?
Can you give us his name?
Not at this time.
Do we know?
We will release his name, Mark, once we have all the information. Again, we're still running a lot of things down.
How many people in the hospital?
In the hospital, so we have the Uniform Division Secret Service officer who's being evaluated at the hospital, who took a round to the vest, and the suspect is being evaluated, but he was not struck by gunfire.
U.S. Attorney Bureau, are you looking at any terrorism charges?
Well, as the chief just indicated, we're very early in this investigation, but make no mistake, if there is anything like that, we will find it and we will file it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so the police chief there saying that it's too early in the investigation, but they will be going through the video to find out how did he really come inside that venue, who he is, what was the motive, is something that will come out during the investigation. But the focus is that shots were fired inside this venue. President Donald Trump has been taken to safety. He is safe. All the journalists, the cabinet ministers they all are safe. We're taking a very short break with this. More news and updates on the other side.